time together by saying the Serenity Prayer together. And so we're going to pray it out loud. It's going to be on the screen. And I think you received a little handout with it as well. I'll say more about that shortly. But why don't you pray the Serenity Prayer? And if you're going to be with us during Lent, my challenge to you is going to be to have this memorized by the time we're done, all right? So here we go. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as the pathway to peace, taking as Jesus did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. So these next weeks, this is what we're going to be talking about. I'm just going to get started tonight. I'm just going to kind of do a little bit of an introduction and talk a little bit about Ash Wednesday. So I'd like to start, though, by having you grab a Bible. And I'd like you to turn with me to Psalm 139. So there should be Bibles around you. There you go. Good job. And it's page 518 in our church Bibles, if that's what you're using. Page 518. If you've got your Recovery Bible along, it's page 775. I actually read a little bit of this psalm just a few weeks ago on a Sunday morning here in worship. I think it might be, if not my favorite psalm, it's one of my favorite psalms. And I'm going to just say some words about it or refer to it a little bit later. And so I wanted to read it at the beginning, and I'm just going to have you follow along. But I just want you to take a moment to think about the messages that at least some of you grew up with that were not that positive. Or, this is really prevalent in our church, or the messages that you find yourself in your own head, telling yourself that you have not amounted to much. And I want you to realize how contrary that is to what the Bible has to say about you. Okay? O Lord, you have examined my heart and know everything there is about me. You know when I sit down or stand up. You know my thoughts, even when I'm far away. You see me when I travel and when I rest at home. You know everything I do. You know what I am going to say even before I say it. Lord, you go before me and follow me. You place your hand of blessing on my head. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too great for me to understand. For I can never escape from your spirit. I can never get away from your presence. If I go to heaven, you are there. If I go down to the grave, you are there. If I ride the wings of the morning, if I dwell by the farthest oceans, even there, your hand will guide me and your strength will support me. I could ask the darkness to hide me and the light around me to become night, but even in darkness I cannot hide from you. I just have to stop there a second. I think the power of some of these verses, because some of us have tried to hide not only from other people but from God, right? And nothing really hides us from God, and still He loves us. But even in darkness, I cannot hide from you. To you, the night shines as bright as day. Darkness and light are the same to you. You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it. You watched me as I was being formed in utter seclusion, as I was woven together in the dark of the womb. You saw me before I was born, and every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. How precious are your thoughts about me, O God. They cannot be numbered. I can't even count them. They outnumber the grains of sand, and when I wake up, you are still with me. O God, if only you would destroy the wicked, get out of my life, you murderers. They blaspheme you. Your enemies misuse your name. O Lord, shouldn't I hate those who hate you? Shouldn't I despise those who oppose you? Yes, I hate them with total hatred, for your enemies are my enemies. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. Point out anything in me that offends you, and lead me along the path of everlasting life. So we are going to look at the Serenity Prayer, and chances are you have seen that many people have rewritten the Serenity Prayer in all sorts of different kinds of messages. Some I couldn't share, but I did bring 3 to share with you. Just the beginning part of the Serenity Prayer, I thought they were kind of cute. This one, I believe, is for those of us who are aging. God, grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the ones I can, and the wisdom to know it's me. Actually, this isn't the one for those of us aging. That's yet to come. But very true, and that's exactly the kind of message we're going to look at tonight. Lord, grant me the serenity to accept stupid people the way they are, courage to maintain my self-control, and wisdom to know that if I act on it, I will go to jail. This is the one, I think, for us who are aging. God, grant me the senility to forget the people I never liked anyway, the good fortune to run into the ones that I do, and the eyesight to tell the difference. Yeah, very clever. Okay, so we are going to have a question tonight. And if you've never been here before, we ask a question every week, and you are invited to answer it. And if you'd like, you just need to get these guys' attention. They'll bring a microphone around to you. You stand up, speak directly into the mic, and give us a brief answer. And first of all, what happened to your nose? You might as well tell us. So.
I had some carcinoma removed.
Okay, everything okay?
Yeah, as far as I
Awesome.
know.
Okay,
As long
good.
as it doesn't come back.
What's that? Had nothing to do with Andrea.
That's tough.
Here's the question. What is challenging your serenity? And it can be things that have challenged your serenity, or it can be things that today might be challenging your serenity. And, you know, one of the things that we like to do here is be a little bit open and transparent about some of the stuff kind of going on in our life to set the stage. So, what is or has challenged your serenity?
Oh, there's a lot. I think one is bad drivers. I think second to all is
What was the first one?
bad drivers. And second of all would probably be definitely looking for a job or work related, or when meetings go awry and you just want to strangle the person next to you. I think that really challenged your serenity.
I'm the one that challenges my serenity because I try to control things that I really should let go and let God. And if I did let go and let God, then I'd be a lot more serene.
Over here.
I think the biggest one for me is the inability to say no.
Good self-awareness there. All right. Who else? Come on, let's do a couple more. Anybody else share? All right. Jason?
Hi. I think the biggest challenge for my serenity is waiting patiently. Just not expecting everything to be right now when I want it. Just letting God's timing work.
Your own patience. Very good. All right. Anybody else?
I think for mine, it is when people hurt your feelings.
Excellent. Thank you. Behind you there, Jason?
Good evening. I'd have to say mine is just the like the impulse for immediate gratification, for wanting something now or yesterday rather than patiently waiting for it.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Anybody else? Well, there we go. One more, and then we'll wrap up.
For me, what challenges it is the hope that things would change when I was going through a really hard time, to trust God that it wouldn't always be the same way.
It's very good. Very good. All right. So, in my former church life, Lent was a crazy time of year. I had pieced together some dramas in our church that were based on the life of Jesus, and we did those dramas every Wednesday night in Lent for nearly 15 years. We did them on Wednesday nights during Lent, and we did them on Maundy, Thursday, and Good Friday, and on Easter Sunday. And the dramas told the story of Jesus' ministry. Jason was even Jesus a year or two for us in those dramas in my former life. And those dramas told the stories of Jesus and a lot of his teachings, his ministry, and literally we also would walk through his death on the cross in those dramas and his resurrection on Easter Sunday. And it was a season that I loved. I loved Lent in those days. And hundreds of people would come on Wednesday evenings in my former church. And it was a time of great joy and fulfillment in my life. So most of you, probably all of you here, know my story. And I'll sum it up really quickly. Workaholism, an addiction to alcohol, burnout, depression, loss of job and calling, public fall from grace, and a journey to try to put the pieces of my life back together again. And here we are. So that's my life that brought me to this moment. And I had, when I entered this new kind of chapter of my life, I had no idea how unhealthy I had become. You don't realize that until a little bit later when you finally start to find some healing. And I had no idea how difficult it would be to recover from all the things that I was dealing with and all the things that I had been through. Because my identity has been so intricately intertwined with my vocation as a pastor, I had a lot to work through and many challenges that stood between me and serenity. And I had, as some of you know, ongoing issues and struggles with burnout and addiction. And literally, towards the end, they followed the church calendar, like fall, around Christmas, and around Lent and Easter. And you don't have to be a psychologist to figure that one out, that there's something kind of going on there. And so I had to do some counseling and some real reflection as to what was standing between me and recovery and healing, as well as serenity in my life. So there was a time, not all that long ago, that this time of year was very difficult for me. And if I was in front of you, I would have been a little bit anxious, but you may or may not have known that. In my psyche and my subconscious, I encountered struggles with fear and with grief and triggers that I was still learning how to deal with. And I wanted to share that with you tonight as we begin this Lenten journey, because I suspect that there is somebody who's able to identify with my story to one degree or another and realize that, man, that sounds a lot like some of what I'm going through or what I've been through. Now, what I want to share with you is that I've learned that God is gracious. and that God is faithful to his promises. And in surrender to his grace and power and his will, God will never give up on me. And he will do for me something that I was unable to do for myself. Yes, recovery, but something even more. More defined or more refined, if you will. And for me, what I have come to know that to be is a deep sense of serenity today. Serenity in my acceptance of my journey, of acceptance of my brokenness, and acceptance of my own sin and my place in life. To me today, that's what Ash Wednesday is about. And so as I sit before you this evening, I have little or no anxiousness inside of me. I've been able to accept that at times I've been a screw-up. And I've been able to accept that I've made mistakes in my life and that I will make mistakes again. Correct? I've been able to accept that I'm a sinful, broken human being, and for me that was a pretty huge step. And I realize that I am a pretty good person, but I still am very capable of being selfish and self-serving, manipulative, narcissistic, and mean. Turn and tell someone he's got that right. So one of the things that I realized in my whole journey when I was in search of serenity was that for a lot of my life I was trying to somehow be perfect. And when I knew I wasn't perfect on the inside, I had to make a decision whether or not to hide it or to deal with it. And for a long time in my life, I hid it. I never knew how to deal with feelings and emotions. My parents had no feelings and emotions that they demonstrated in the home that I grew up in. And so as an adult, I could sit with you and I could help you very well deal with the emotions and feelings that you were going through. But when I came into my own struggle with issues that have brought me here, I really had trouble trying to identify what I was feeling inside and how I was supposed to deal with that. The thing is that through my struggles, I've learned that I don't need to let my mistakes and struggles define me. And that's what I want to share with you tonight, because you don't either. I may have screwed up, but I am not a screw-up. And I am an alcoholic because I have struggles with the disease of addiction, but it is not my identity. I make mistakes all the time, but I am not a mistake, and neither are you. We gather here with all sorts of struggles and issues, but I want you to know tonight that they are not who you are. That's what I want to tell you tonight. That regardless of what issue or struggle it is that you've been dealing with in life or have dealt with in the past, no matter what the messages that are filling your head that you are speaking to yourself, you are not anything other than what God has created you to be and has claimed you to be. And we already read the words that God knows everything there is about you, and He still loves you. That God created you in His image, that He created you a masterpiece put together by His own creative hand. And He knows everything there is about you because He has made you wonderfully made. You know, a big part of my journey into recovery and for my search of serenity has been the Serenity Prayer. And I memorized it pretty early on in my journey, and I pray it every day. And I gave you a copy tonight. I think everybody probably has a copy. And I'm going to challenge you to do what I did with my copy. When I got a copy, I put it on my bathroom mirror, and I said it every day until I didn't need it on my bathroom mirror to say it. Okay? I still say the Serenity Prayer multiple times every day. One of the times I say it is when I'm exercising in the morning. It becomes not only a means of spiritual talk for me, but it helps me get through the exercise machine that I'm on. Over these next weeks, I'm going to share with you how the Bible really, or how the Serenity Prayer is so Bible-based, and how it all works together in so many ways, and that the longer part of it actually explains the beginning about how it is that we pray, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So what the longer version of the prayer actually does is it says, well, how do you do that? Well, you do it by living one day at a time, and you do it by enjoying one moment at a time. Well, how do I live one day at a time, and how do I enjoy one moment at a time? Well, we start by accepting hardship as the pathway to peace, and taking this sinful world as Jesus did, trusting that He will make all things right if I surrender to His will. So that I might, and I can't wait to get to this the last week, so that I might be reasonably happy in this life. Say reasonably happy. And supremely happy with Him forever in the next. So tonight, I just kind of wanted to introduce the Serenity Prayer, and I wanted to challenge you to start learning it. And I want to define serenity with you and have you take that home with you when you go. So do you think there's a difference between peace and serenity? Well, I'm going to suggest there is tonight. And if you Google dictionary, I didn't use, Google it. Dictionary is a book. It has words in it with definitions afterwards. I Googled peace, and here's the definition. It's on the screen. Freedom from disturbance, quiet, and tranquility. Here's serenity. A state of being calm, peaceful, and troubled. What I want you to focus on is a state of being. Do you notice the difference? You see, peace is based upon external circumstances. Okay? Serenity is based on internal circumstances. It's based on what's going on inside of me. So here's the difference. You can be serene even if the circumstances of your life are far from peaceful. And you can lack serenity even if the circumstances of your life are peaceful. So as we go forward, we're going to think about serenity being something that's inside of us. Peace is something that's outside of us. And I want you to know tonight that true serenity comes from God. The kind of serenity that we're all in search of comes from God. And it comes from understanding and accepting that I'm okay and that you're okay. How do we get to a place of serenity? For me, it was accepting the things that I cannot change and changing the things that I could to the best of my ability and seeking God's guidance for it. And so just think about that for a moment. Accepting the things that I cannot change. Well, I can't change that I'm getting older or that I'm going to die someday, but I can make the most of trying to be healthy today and getting the most out of today. I can't change the people in my life. My wife tried really hard, by the way. Can't change the people in my life, but I can change how I react to them, right? And how I respond to them. In fact, one of the greatest gifts of my recovery has been this realization that I'm responsible for my side of the street and you're responsible for your side of the street. Great freedom comes in that. I can't change my past. Now, that one was the hard one for me to accept. Can't change the things that I had done. I can't even manage the consequences of them. But I can change today, and I can strive to do better. So God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, courage to accept the things that I can. But here's the thing. One of the things that I have found as key to serenity is not just an acknowledgement that I'm broken and that I make mistakes and that I've got stuff that has just kind of made me as much a human being as you, but I've had to accept responsibility for the things that I have done. Acceptance is accepting responsibility for what we have done. Accepting responsibility that I'm a flawed human being and I'm at peace with my humanness. Ash Wednesday is an opportunity for us to reflect on our own brokenness and our mortality. And that today, for me, it leads to joy. And Lent reminds me not just of the things that I have done wrong, but of the grace of God and His redeeming power that has made me and given me the opportunity to be here with you tonight. For out of our brokenness, God makes something beautiful, and out of death, God brings new life. And so as we go on our way tonight, I want you to take that with you, that the brokenness that you have, the humanity that you are experiencing in your daily life, that's part of what it means to be a child of God, and that it's acceptance of that allows us to move from this day, from this place, out into the world and live in God's grace each day. So in just a moment, you're going to be invited to come up. You can come on up, musicians, and we're going to sing a song, and we're going to have the imposition of ashes.